well, actually, in December of this year. And in my letter, I asked for information about the individuals who contributed to the asset management report and their relevant background and experience in the asset management industry. And you responded, but you did not answer that question. Furthermore, I also asked that you provide a list of and description of all the meetings that the OFR held with representatives for the asset management industry in preparing this report. Again, you acknowledge you met, and your staff met with folks from the asset management industry, but you did not provide the information we requested. I'm now asking if you would be willing to provide that information.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to provide that information, meet with you and your staff to provide that information. If you felt our letter was not responsive, we want to make sure that it is.
Well, I believe it was not responsive, unfortunately, and I certainly appreciate your willingness to have frequent conversations and dialogue, and just want to ensure that the folks that wrote the report have the sterling credentials or similar credentials that you do. And I know that's an important part to make sure that when we have analysis of data, that our government agencies provide sterling data and sterling insight to that data. Now, as a part of this, can you explain how policymakers are supposed to act on the OFR's research if the OFR provides to prioritize all identified risks?
Mr. Chairman, the annual report that we presented identifies 8 risks to financial stability. We could probably enumerate some more, but those are the top 8. So in that sense, we did prioritize what we thought were the most important risks.
So of those top 8, is there priority in those top 8?
Well, Mr. Chairman, when we think about threats to financial stability, sometimes those risks are interrelated. Indeed, when we looked at the first 3 that we enumerated, those are, as I indicated in my written testimony, those 3 are related, and they're related to a 4th. The basic theme there is that where market positioning is, that markets may be vulnerable to a sharp, unexpected rise in interest rates or in volatility.
Sure.
And there's a
suite of Bloomberg, I mean, for instance, anyone can pay the money to get a Bloomberg screen and know that level of information. Now, the question is the magnitude of these risks. So if I were to ask you what is the single most significant risk to the U.S. economy, what would you say?
That's a hard question, Mr. Chairman, because when we think about financial stability, risk to financial stability, the reason we talk about threats is that many times they don't come in 1s or 2s. They may come in several flavors, and it's the combination of those threats when exposed to a shock can expose vulnerabilities in our financial system that have an interplay among them. So it's really difficult to say what the top risk is right now. I would say that there are remaining vulnerabilities in our financial system. One of the ones that we identify in the list of 8 relates to short-term wholesale funding markets, which I alluded to in my comments a moment ago. That's a risk that's been partly addressed by policymakers, but not completely.
Okay. So, but in terms of the difficulty of assigning a level of risk, I understand, but you have an $86 million budget, and what you're supposed to do in standing up this agency is to lay out those risks and prioritize those risks. Are you not? Or aren't you a part of the process to identify the next financial crisis so we can avoid it?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure that we can identify when the next financial crisis will occur, nor can we prevent financial crises. What we can do is identify what the risks are to the financial system, where its vulnerabilities are, in order to inform policymakers about strengthening those vulnerabilities and making our system more resilient.
And you said as much before the Senate Banking Committee a few weeks ago. Very similar quote, in fact, that you can't predict the next financial crisis. So then why are we spending $86 million on an agency that can't do the thing it's supposed to do? It's a basic question.
Mr. Chairman, the Dodd-Frank Act created the Office of Financial Research.
I'm familiar. Yes, sir.
To inform the Council and the American people. We think that's exactly what we're doing. We think that we are giving information to the Council and to the American people in order to strengthen the financial system. We learned in the financial crisis that it was exactly those weaknesses that had not been immediately visible that contributed greatly to the financial crisis. Our job is to help strengthen those weaknesses.
And my time has expired, but I would say this, that when Simon Johnson says that your annual report is not impressive, and it reads like some of the less informative systemic risk assessments that we saw prior to 2011, that should be deeply troubling to you with your sterling academic credentials, and you should be willing to correct that and to improve that, and I hope you will. With that, we'll now recognize Ms. Maloney from